In all languages, at all levels in National 5, Higher and Advanced Higher, you are assessed in 3 skills. You will have a FAB paper for your reading, for your listening, and for writing. If you are studying Higher or Advanced Higher, your reading will also include a translation. In this video, I will be discussing how you can prepare for all 3 parts of the exam. However, your teacher will have been working a lot with you on your reading and listening skills, and it may be that you wish to focus on your writing, as this is the part of the paper that you are most in control of. Let us first look at reading and translation skills. First of all, we would advise that if you feel you would need to work on your reading skills, please speak with your teacher to get an appropriate text. Our second piece of advice is that you should use the dictionary that you will use in the final exam, so that you are practicing using this dictionary and not a dictionary unfamiliar to you. Therefore, if you do not have a dictionary at home, we would advise that you only practice your reading and translation skills at supported study or when you're able to have a dictionary at home. Once you have the paper that you would like to use and the dictionary that you will be using in the final exam, make sure you're set up in exam conditions. Therefore, if you normally use a highlighter or have different coloured of pens to help you with your answers, have all of this to hand. And once you have completed the task, please give this to your teacher or any member of the languages team to be marked and to seek feedback. So, let us now look at the skill of tackling a reading paper. We are going to use a National 5 text to help us with this. With any text at any level, we would strongly recommend that you read anything given to you in English about the text to help you with your overall understanding of the text before starting. So we can see here in the blurb that this article is about becoming more environmentally friendly at home. We can then follow this by reading all of the questions given to us, as this will help us learn about what the text is going to be about. So, we know it's about the environment. We can see that we are going to be looking at the problem of plastic and how we can reduce this. The text will also look at how we save energy, what families do to save water, and how routines have benefits. The next thing that we would urge you to do is to map out your text. And that means that you look for a key word in the question, and question A here helps us with that by being a gap fill. So we would be looking for something that would be sacrificing some time doing, and we would look for that in the text. And we can see the first word in the text is a cognate. It looks similar to sacrificing, so we know that our answer is going to come from there. Now, let us look at a smaller chunk of this text, and we're going to look at question D. What should all the family do to save water? Now, in any language, we are looking for pointers that will help us figure out where the answer's coming from. Now, in our example here, I've already given you the correct paragraph and the question, but we need to see where our answers are. Now, it is really important that you read the question carefully. This question here says, state any 2 things. And the notion of any here tells us that there are more than 2 things. Feedback from markers is that often pupils don't get the paper finished. So we would recommend, once you have found your 2 answers, you then move on to the next question. And if you have time remaining at the end, you could come back and add in another answer if you wish. But firstly, we need to see where the start of our answer is coming from. So I would say that our keywords in the question here are family and save water. Now, I am not an Italian learner, so I am looking at this maybe with my knowledge of Spanish and French. And I would say that my cognates here, we've got family, and conserve is like save. And knowing agua in Spanish, I think this is the word for water. Now, something else we need to look out for in our text is punctuation. And you can see here we have this colon. That is another pointer to say, here is the answer coming. And again, from my knowledge of other languages, I can see this phrase here, which I believe will be for example, which tells me that the examples of how the family can save water are coming next. So, if we take this first sentence here, because we know that this is going to be one of the potential answers given to us. And what we need to think about first of all is, what words do we already know? Because often as well, when we look at pupils' papers, they have spent too much time looking at words that weren't required. So in this sentence, I know that I already know 3 words. And those words are cuando, lava, and denti. So I know that that means when, this means wash, and this means teeth. So we know that it's going to be something about, well, we wouldn't say washing your teeth, but cleaning your teeth or brushing your teeth. Therefore, to be able to get this answer, I'm going to need to look up this word and this word. So, it is really important that if you spend time looking up a word in the dictionary, you should write down the meanings you are given. So for this word here, I was given a few meanings. I was given stop. I was given turn off. And for this word here, I was given the word tap. Now, I don't feel I need to look up any more because I feel I have all of the elements required now to give me the answer. So the first thing I need to do is choose the correct words. So if we're on about a tap, and when we're brushing or cleaning our teeth, I'm not going to say stop the tap, but I'm going to say turn off the tap, and then using the language I knew, when brushing your teeth. Okay, and the reason that we have these words here is that if they come back up again, we won't need to spend time looking them up again because we have already looked them up, and then we can refer back to that. But as we said, it's really important that you speak with your teacher about what texts you can use to practice at home. And if you don't have a dictionary at home, please do not use online translators, as this will not help you for the final exam. Now let us turn our focus to listening. Now, unfortunately, there is no set topic or set vocabulary list for National 5, Higher or Advanced Higher in Scotland. Your teachers will have worked with you on a range of topics, and the best thing that you can do to practice for the listening paper is learn as much vocabulary as you can and as regularly as you can. We would advise that you set a point in your week or short points across the week where you go back and revise vocabulary from previous years. Your teacher will have posted links to Quizlets or vocabulary booklets on Google Classroom, which you can access to help you revise. We understand, however, that this can become a little repetitive, so it may be an idea to use different apps such as Linguoscope or Duolingo to vary the vocabulary that you are learning and to vary the way in which you are learning as well, because each of these apps tests your vocabulary knowledge and helps you learn in a different way. you can use your school Google login for Quizlet and Duolingo, but please see your teacher for the Linguiscope login.
We're now going to turn our attention to the writing paper of the FAB. For us and for you, this is probably the most important paper, as this is the paper over which you have most control. At all levels, you will be given a choice of topics to write about in the FAB. With your teacher, you will already have prepared pieces of writing, which you now need to learn at home. Your teacher will have spoken to you about ways in which you can memorise chunks of text by heart. In this session, we're going to look at how you can chunk language to help you memorise it, and also look at the app Memorise by Heart and how it can be useful in helping you to learn chunks of language. You'll find the Memorise by Heart app on your iPad, and if you haven't downloaded it already, simply go to the app portal and download from there. The examples Mrs. Curran is about to talk us through use parts of a job app, but remember that it's not your job app or directed writing that you are learning for the FAB. The strategies Mrs. Curran is going to show you can be used for any piece of writing that you need to learn off by heart.
When looking at learning any type of language, it's really important that you understand how the language is broken down into chunks. When you chunk a piece of text and look at what individual parts look like or what they mean in English, that will help you with your understanding and then with your learning. So let us look at this small part of the first paragraph of a job app in Spanish. You can see on its own there's quite a lot there. But when we break it down into little chunks, that can help us learn it a bit quicker. So, our first sentence, Me llamo Beyoncé. I'm going to put a break in there because I feel that would be a chunk we would learn all together. The next chunk, Tengo 20 años. I have 20 years. Now, depending on how your knowledge is, if you knew tengo was I have and años was years, you could keep that all together. And you could have, I have 20 years. But if this was more complicated language and you need to split it up further, you could break it up by having your tengo first. I have 20 years. And you can see, maybe you want to highlight that or change the colour of it so that your English is really clear. And as you go through and chunk that into small parts, that will then help you break it down, and you can use methods such as look, cover, write, check. You could then put these chunks into Memorise by Heart, and you just go one section at a time, and once you know that section, you can go to the next part. If you are finding it difficult to do the chunking by yourself, then you could speak to a teacher, any teacher in the languages faculty, and they will help you with the chunking. So, now that I have my chunks, I am ready to start learning. It is really, really important that you only work on one chunk at a time and add on when you absolutely know a chunk. Because if you start to power on through and you are maybe not 100% sure of a chunk, that is where errors will occur. And if you learn something wrongly, it is really difficult to unlearn that. So, my first chunk, Me llamo Beyoncé. I am called Beyoncé. So I would be writing that out on my screen. Me llamo Beyoncé. I am called Beyoncé. Me llamo Beyoncé. I am called Beyoncé. And then what I'd want to do is I'd want to then cover that up. I would then take away what I've got. And then I would test myself. Can I then write that out? Me llamo Beyoncé. And then I want to check that. Was I right? Yes. And then I can add on my next chunk, which is tengo. Memorise by Heart is a really useful app that you have on your iPads. So once you've downloaded that from the app portal, you can create a new memorisation to add in. And you can see here I've put in my title as Job App. I've changed to the language to Spanish, the language that I'm learning. And I've put in just the first paragraph here of a job app. It's really important that you don't put in too much text at once. So if it was your job app, you would maybe only put in one paragraph at a time. And when you were confident with that paragraph, you would add in a second. Or if it was directed writing, you would add in a bullet point that you were working on, and then you could add in a second. Okay, once you have in all the things that you need, you just slide down and hit save, and you can see my job app is waiting there for me, and it then takes me to the game screen. So if it's new to you, you might want to do tap to reveal first. So when you tap on that, you can see each time that I tap on the screen, I've got my first word there. Me llamo Beyonce. Now, you can see the arrows here, you can go back. So that was just to remind myself, me llamo Beyonce. Let's check it. Me llamo Beyonce. Fab. And remember we talked about these little chunks, and our next chunk, depending on how you're feeling, was either going to just be tengo or tengo 20 años. And that would be my two chunks that I'm learning together. And I would go back again until I had that chunk learned. Now, you can see at the bottom, we've now got different options. You could change that to phrases. Me llamo Beyonce, tengo 20 años, and you can see the sentences are coming up that time. It just depends on how confident you are feeling. If we head back to the main page there, and you see all games, there we are, see all games, you can see you've got a variety of things that you can choose from. And something that we would also recommend is Slider. And that is something that can help with spelling or word order. So if we start with the letters section first, you can see when I scroll down, it is taking away some letters there, and you would need to put them back in. If I then tap reveal, it shows you what the answers are for you to then go and check. Or if you need a little bit of help because you're still in practicing mode, it can give you a quick flash to show you what the word is. Similarly, we can take away set words. And it might be that you take away all of the words, but you are left with the blank spaces to then help you write that out either on paper or on a whiteboard. And then you can reveal the words to then check it once you feel confident, or if you need a little bit of help in practicing mode. Again, it's really important that you practice how this will look in the FAB or in the final exam for you. Therefore, if you handwrite your writing in an assessment, then you should practice handwriting out your pieces of writing. Or if you use an iPad because you type your assessments, you should practice typing it as well. And like the other skills, please ensure you speak with your teacher and ask them to mark any practices that you have done and get feedback on it. And it's really important to note that your teachers are available after school at supported study if you would like us to go over anything with you, or if you would like anything to be marked and to get feedback on. You can see the supported study times on the screen just now, or they are also posted outside of your teacher's classroom.